So
Cool.
yeah, so I was talking about CloudWatch. I don't know how much you heard of what I was saying about CloudWatch. But let me share my screen and let's get back here. So what I had done was to open up. I don't know if you heard. Where was the last bit that you heard?
Yeah, I think we saw it just froze around here where it says CloudWatch. And
Yeah, around the definition of monitoring and all that.
Okay, yes. So what I was trying to say is, so CloudWatch is a pretty big part of AWS. It's not free. It's there, you have access to it, right? But if you actually do use it, you will pay for it, okay? But let's just take a quick glance at what's available. Now, CloudWatch is a monitoring system, which means that it can inform you when certain events happen or when certain criteria is reached, right? For example, if you have CloudWatch monitoring and EC2 instance, you can set it up to alert you whenever the resource usage on that instance gets to 70%. Or if that instance, for some reason, is unavailable, if it crashes, if it goes off, you can set up CloudWatch monitoring to send out a notification email. Or it can even perform an action like actually restart the instance for you, right? You can call a script that can do, so there's so many different things that can happen, but CloudWatch has the ability to trigger actions when predefined criteria are met, okay? Beyond that, it also gives you an insight into how your cloud infrastructure is doing. You can view resource usage, right? You can view performance, you can view trends, you can create dashboards. There's so many different things you can do. And then with the alarms and notifications, you can even have it notify you when your costs get to a certain point or are within a certain threshold. So let's say you have RDS, right? And I'm not expecting you to know exactly what RDS is, but RDS is a relational database service. And let's say you set up a threshold that if your RDS costs get to $400, you want CloudWatch to notify you, right? It has the ability to do that, okay? So if you look on the left here, and you can access CloudWatch by coming to services and searching for CloudWatch, right? Now, if you look on the left here, there you see many different sections of CloudWatch, right? You have alarms. Right now, I have one alarm, right? And the alarm is on this here. And you can see the comments, right? The conditions right here. The network is out, whatever, for one data point within 5 minutes, whatever that is. I can click on this to see more details on that alarm. Okay. This is an example, and here it's called out so that I have a notification. I can come here and look at okay, what I have that's okay. The same one, okay? Logs. Now if we come to log groups, this is where we would be able to see logs. So for our ElasticBeanstalk, for example, the logs generated by Beanstalk can be streamed into CloudWatch. By default, they are not, because you pay for that streaming. But the logs can be streamed into CloudWatch, and in CloudWatch, you can look at them. It's a slightly better interface, right? Because when you look at the logs in CloudWatch, you can actually search for specific terms, right? And there's so many other things you can do with those logs. You can actually have CloudWatch analyze those logs and take action based on what's in those logs. And then there are many other aspects of CloudWatch. We're not going to go into the details today, but I just wanted to point out that CloudWatch is there, and if we used CloudWatch on our Beanstalk, the logs would have made more sense. We may experiment with it for a little bit. It's going to cost me because I have to turn on CloudWatch 1.4, the Beanstalk, but I don't think it's enough to kill, to be that devastating. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go back to the Beanstalk, and we're going to walk through deploying a sample application. Okay, essentially what we did with Ralph after the class last week, right? We're going to look and try to deploy that. And now what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to deploy the Angular app that we have, but as part of a Node app so that we can view the same app here. We want to see that in our Beanstalk. Now remember, when you come to Beanstalk, you can actually view the environment with this link here, or you can use the link on the left here, go to environment. So on my Beanstalk, I only have the sample app, right? So let's create a new app, package it, and deploy it to Beanstalk. And there are a few things that we're going to do in that app that will help us explore some of the other configurations of Beanstalk. Okay, so first here, I'm going to create a new folder, and let me exit this so that I'm on my local. And I'm going to create a new folder called Beanstalk Demo. Let's do this. Let's call it Beanstalk Demo, right? And then let's go into it. CD Beanstalk Demo. Okay. Now I'm going to initialize it as a new Node.js project. So I'm going to do npm init. And I'm just going to go with all the defaults. All right. So if I check here, I only have the package.json, right? And then let's edit that. And I'm going to add a start script here. So what we're missing the last time was a start script. So we're going to make sure we have one now. And this is going to be node index. Okay. So we created a start script. And then let's create an index app. So index.js, right? But before we do this, let's install Express. So we have a server at least, right? So npm install save Express. All right, so we've installed Express here, and we use the save flag so that it is in package JSON. Right, so now we have Express here. And the next thing we want to do is okay, let's just copy the one from training so we don't have to type from Classroom. All right, so we don't need it. So Vim index. All right, so here we have this Express server. I'm just going to remove the people and the course handlers just so that we can, we don't need to deal with those routes. I'm going to remove body parser as well. This. Okay. And these out. Now, one important thing to note is that ElasticBeanstalk, right, has a load balancer in front that routes to your application on port 8080. So if you want your application to run in ElasticBeanstalk, right, it needs to be running on port 8080. Here you see this is listening on port 4300, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to 8080. And now when we run this, it should be running on port 8080. So let me also change this here. Okay. So this is this is a very, 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 very basic form of our application. All it does is say, welcome here. Okay. Let's come here to CloudWatch and let's turn on, sorry, let's come here to ElasticBeanstalk and let's ask it to stream logs to CloudWatch. If we come to configuration here, right, and we come down to monitoring, let's edit our monitoring settings. You see this checkbox here for log streaming, right? Let's enable that. And you see here it says standard CloudWatch charges apply. Okay. And so we're going to apply that. And that is going to connect to CloudWatch so that we get detailed logs, right, of whatever is going on with our environment. And that, like I said, that makes it much easier to view the logs. Right. So back to, is everyone familiar with what we just did here? I don't know. I don't think everyone is on the back end, or is everyone on back end here? I think Dio may not be. Hello?
Yeah, I wasn't here yesterday, so.
Okay. So you haven't attended any of the back end sessions, right?
No, I've attended. Yesterday was the only one I've missed.
Oh, okay, okay. So this is familiar. So
Yeah.
There's no one here that's looking at this and like, oh, what on earth is this, right? Okay, so that's good. And what we've done here, we've just set up a very, very basic server, right? That if we run node index, right? It's listed on that port, and this is what we get. Welcome here. All right, that's all this application does. So we're now going to try to package this and deploy it to Beanstalk. Okay, and remember, you can just deploy it as a zip file. Okay, so now we've set up Beanstalk to log to CloudWatch, right? To stream logs to CloudWatch. Let's come in and let's package this here. What we have, let's package it and let's deploy that to Beanstalk. So what I'm going to do here, I'm on Linux, and one of the things for infrastructure guys, you need to get your Linux game and your CLI game up, because a lot of what you'll be doing, right, having command line skills is critical to you being effective, right? It's critical because a lot of the times you have to connect into a server, connect into an environment, right, or use the AWS CLI to perform actions, right? So it's a very, very valuable skill to have. Now, it's not an absolute requirement for being a solutions architect, but I mean, I think if you want to be taken very seriously and respected as a solutions architect that designs cloud solutions, you need to be able to at least run some commands on the command line. You don't have to be a Linux expert, but you need to not be lost, right? All right, so here I'm going to run, so here I'm going to just zip this, right? And then I want to exclude node module. No, sorry. I missed that. Next. Give me 1 second. Let's Google that. I'm missing that command. Linux zip exclude folder. There you go. Zip and exclude. Okay. Yeah. So this is what I mean. That's what I did, right? Icon X.
Yes.
Yeah, so why isn't it excluding zip uppercase X? No, it's lowercase x.
Maybe the path after it is wrong.
Yeah, let me see. Oh, let's see. Right, let me try this again. No. No, I don't want it to add node modules. Okay, I'm gonna do the easy way. I'm just gonna remove node modules before I do the zip. Okay, so I have my zip file now. That's just all these three. Okay, and so we're gonna go to Beanstalk and we're gonna deploy this application. So remember, from here, upload and deploy. And then I'm going to choose a file, and I'm going to upload this beanstalk demo.zip, and I'm going to call this beanstalk demo v1. Okay, apply that. And then that is deployed. Okay. Remember, you can look at the events here. So this is recent events. If you want to see a longer list of events, and this is paginated, but if we click show all, that brings us to the events monitor here, and we can see all the events that is being stopped. Okay, they usually in AWS in the management console, you typically find a refresh button here. If it doesn't automatically refresh, you can typically click this.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question here? So if I was a like a release manager, would I have multiple beanstalks for my various development environments, or how does that
Yes.
hold? Okay.
Yes. So, and it's not just for applications, but for environments as well. So let's say you have a development team, right? And you set up a development environment for them, a staging environment, a production environment, right? Each of those environments would be a beanstalk. Set up
Okay. Okay.
Right. Now,
And okay, go on.
of course, they would be configured differently, right? Like your development environment, you wouldn't care so much about high availability and all that, right? For your production environment, you would want to be highly available. You want it to be fully backed up, fully monitored. You want everything in place on that. So like you may not set up crazy alarms and monitoring on the development environment, right? Because developers will constantly break stuff anyway. But you may want, all the monitoring that you can get or you can afford on the production environment. Okay. So if we come back to yes.
No, I was going to say, and is there a special way of, or he just not? If I'm doing a release from staging to live, we need to just do copying, zipping the grid, what's worked fine on the staging, for argument's sake, and then just deploying it on the production one. Is it as simple as that?
That is one way of doing it, but that is how you would do it if you were in the 1980s. Right. Typically, you would have what's called a build server, right? And we're going to, the infrastructure squad, we're going to set that up. We're actually going to start working on that in the next session.
Okay.
We'll set up a build server on an EC2 instance, and we will connect it to ElasticBeanstalk AWS. Okay. The build server will take the code the developers have written. If it's Java, for example, it will take the code and compile it, because what you deploy is the compiled application, not the source code, right? The same thing with Node.js and JavaScript. It will take the code, it will create what's called a build, a specific version of the application, and deploy that version. So that whole process is what ends up with you having like a zip file that you can then pass over to Beanstalk. Okay, so here you can see now my running version. It says I have Beanstalk demo version 1, right? That's the version I now have running. And if we come back to look at my running application, that's what I have running on the server now, right? And I have this skinny little application that we had. Okay, so previously, I had the sample application running. Now notice that this time we didn't have any errors, any issues whatsoever, because we have my brain just went dead.
Was it changing the ports, that port thing? Was that
Yes,
issue?
no, because we have a start script. Because we have a start script, and our application is running on port 8080, right? If we changed our application, and let's just do that. So if we came here and we change the port here, let's change it to 8081, right? And I'm going to zip this again, and I'm going to come here. Now the deployment will go faster because it's already done the npm install. So if I now deploy this again, and then deploy version 2, right? Look at it. Deploying new versions. So this is deployed. You see, this was much faster. And it was much faster because the last time I deployed, it had to do an npm install and all of that. This time, everything is already installed, so all we needed to do was deploy the change code. And if we come here now, actually, let's see what we get. So it's bad gateway, right? And that's because the load balancer Nginx is trying to direct traffic to port 8080, but we have this application running on port 8081. Now, before we go fix it, let's see what we have in CloudWatch. So let's see what our logs look like in CloudWatch now. So when we come into CloudWatch, and come to logs, come to log groups. When we come into log groups here, okay. Oh, I don't think it's fully set up, but we're just gonna come in here. And when you look at this here, these are environment metrics. Hold on. I think there's still some configuration I have to do for it to monitor everything.
Latest logs are at the bottom though.
What did you say? What did you say? Yeah, the latest, you said the latest logs are at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just what is being logged. This is only environment metrics. I need some more details than this. Yeah. So let's come back here and let's see what we have configured here. So if we come to our configuration, and we come to monitoring, okay, so that's just help events. Okay.
Yeah, let's choose metric.
Yeah. Yeah, these are metrics.
Environment metrics and the drop down beneath it.
Anyway, let me not go into that right now. Let's come back. Let's come back here. They've changed a lot of things about this interface. So for example, if you remember, I was trying to find where to change the run command, right? And let me show you how the interface is different. So under software, before, this is what it looked like. Let's see, not that one. Okay, let's see. Load balancer, no, not this one. Yes. So this is what you see under configuration, modify software, which is here, where modify software. This is what it looked like. And you had an option here called node command, where you could specify what the node command is, right? And then you also have the Node.js version and proxy server and all of that. So it's no longer under modify software, which is part of my challenge. So I need to get up to date with where it is now in configuration. But yeah, when I figure that out, I will let you know, or we'll talk about it in one of our sessions. Okay, so moving forward, right now, let's make this application a little bigger so we can deploy it. So let's take, remember the Angular app that we have. So let's go here. Classroom, right? Web app, right? And then I'm going to say ng build. I remember, okay, when Dapo asked, and I said, in practice, you typically will have a build, the version of the application, right, to deploy. This command here is how you build an Angular application for deployment. You don't deploy the source code the way it is. You have to create a build package because the source environment includes unit tests, like includes tests, includes documentation, includes all kinds of stuff. But also the format of the code is not optimal for production because it's optimal for you editing. So before the application goes from a developer machine to a production machine, it has to be built. Now, one of the things, if you work in cloud infrastructure and you're supporting a development team, this is an important concept to understand. You're not going to be responsible for building or making sure it builds, but you have to know that they have to deliver a build package some way or the other. So now, when you run ng build, there's a folder called dist, which is the distribution folder. And if we look in there, right, there's a folder called web app. So, and in there, this is the built version of the application. You notice that there are no folders. So all our app.components, .html components, .scss, everything, all of that, everything has been compiled and distilled down to these files. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to copy this web app folder. And we're going to copy it into our Beanstalk application, to our Beanstalk demo, into a folder called app. Okay. All right, so now we have a folder called app. And if we do ls app, okay, we have this index.html. Now the only one tweak that we're going to do to our code is to have the Express server serve this index.html rather than what it's currently doing. So here's what I mean. Right now here on our root route, or our root as the British people want us to say, we're just sending out welcome here. We don't want to send this out. We want to serve index.html. Okay. So, and you know, of course, all the other sub files. So here, I'm just going to cheat a little. I already have that happening here. And what we're looking for is something like this. We can do this. And what this is saying is route all the traffic, right, into app index.html. And let's begin this. We path here. Okay, here. Let me just use this one. Okay, and let's save this as 8080. Let me npm install. I need path. All right, and let's try this node index. Oh, hold on. Barbican. Okay, so I just wanted to confirm that if I did this and I clicked here, right, we now have the Angular app being served by Node. So I want to make sure that that worked before we came here. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before, which is let's remove Node modules, right, and then let's zip this up. Right. Okay, so I've zipped this up now, and let's deploy that. Let's choose file. Beanstalk demo.zip. And this is Beanstalk demo with Angular, right? Let's deploy that. All right. Yeah, so it's deploying new version. Okay. So this is done. Let's see what we have. There. This is actually running on our Beanstalk now. Look at the URL here. It's the Beanstalk URL. I can send it to anyone. Let me share it in the chat. You can try it out. Can someone confirm it?
Yep. It's live.
Okay. So this is what you would do if you wanted to deploy an application. And literally this, well, not the exact same steps, of course, like I answered that was question. But what we've done here is we've actually set up an application environment on the internet. This is a web address. This is a DNS. It's an Amazon issued address. But this address is as good as a www.anything, right? you can actually take a domain, an actual domain name if you own it, and point it to this address, and it will work. So if you're building a new app or a new application, a new website, whatever, you literally can host it like this. Now, of course, if it's just you, you can do what we did. You can zip it up and upload it like this. There's no need to set up a build server and everything. If it's just you, you can just run the build locally, zip it up, and upload it. I mean, even so, I removed the node modules just because it's very, very large and it takes much longer for it to zip up and upload and create a much larger file, which is why I removed it. You don't have to. If you include the node modules and deploy it, your deployment will be much quicker the first time, because it doesn't have to do npm install. But when you deploy to a Beanstalk, and you deploy to a Node.js Beanstalk, it knows to do npm install every time you deploy, because where you register the dependencies for the application is in package JSON. So it assumes, hey, that's changed, then I may need to, there may be a new package in there. And so it will do an npm install to update the application dependencies. Okay. Any questions so far about what we've done?
Sorry, one question. I know you just said it, but so what you're saying is, if we'd done the whole package, like the whole application, we wouldn't have to do the npm install separately. Is that what you're saying?
If you did not delete node modules, if you included
No, but
node,
okay, all right.
yeah. If node module, right?
And you did that because you just wanted to deploy only the Angular parts. You don't want to do the rest. Is that why you did that?
No. It's because there's you typically do not include node modules in your repository, right? And ElasticBeanstalk is actually not expecting you to have node modules in there.
Okay.
Right? It's not expecting you to have node modules in there, but it is expecting a package JSON. And so when you actually upload, it will do an npm install. By default, it will do an npm install and create its own node modules folder. So there's no point packaging it. I'm creating a very large zip file. So let me show you what the difference is.
Okay.
So you see, if I do npm install here, right? Now let's see what the size of my zip file is. My current zip file is what? 190 kilobytes, right? It's 190 KB. Okay. If I zip this again, look at the size of my zip file now.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's not that much larger for this particular application, but look at it, it's 8 times, or at least 7 times as large. For a standard application, you see classroom.zip, look at the size of that, 231 megabytes. Okay, that's the size of this. And it doesn't contain much more, as far as the application part of it specifically, doesn't contain much more than this Beanstalk. So it's super large because of the node modules, right?
So is that good or bad?
That's bad. That's why we don't have node modules in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we keep node modules out of the repo, we keep node modules out of the, and let the environment handle that. That's why when you pull, you have to do an npm install, because we're not pushing node modules. Okay. All right. So that's it. We have our application. We were able to deploy it successfully. No errors, no bugs. Now remember, you can go back to the previous version. So this is what we have running right now, right? And if we want it here, you can come to application versions, right? Click on that, and you can actually go back to a previous version. We're like, oh, this is the version I actually want. And you come to actions, right? And we say deploy that version. So now when we come here, to this, it's deploying that version of the application. Okay, and there. We now have this. Let's see what's running now. Ta-da! That's what's running now, because that's what that version is. So the benefit of being able to do this is that if you install a version of the application and it happens to be buggy, you can roll back to the previous good version. Okay, you can roll back to previous good version. Let's see what happens if we try. We know that that classroom zip that we have is a bad version. When this completes, let's try to upload that and see how Beanstalk handles that. So right now, we're back to a good version, right? All right. So let's try to upload this here. I kept blowing it up last week. Let's upload that. Actually, hold on. Let me turn on the logs and the monitoring again. And let's see. So let's come to configuration, monitoring. Okay, we have it enabled already. All right. So let's come back here. And let's upload this. Choose file. And we're going to install Classroom Breaker. Okay. So let's deploy that. And then we'll see how this helps us. Or we'll see how it responds to this. Okay, it's uploading. So while this is uploading, any other questions, observations? Okay, we're still making good time. So when this is done, we're going to go into CloudWatch, and we're going to look at it in some more detail. So right now we've seen 3 different ways of deploying applications, right? Who can remember? We've seen 3 different ways of deploying a website. Who remembers what they are?
When you say three different ways, you mean not today. You mean generally over the.
Yes. Over
So that's that easy one, the static page one, using S3. We've seen this one using the ElasticBeanstalk, I guess. What you're doing now with a zip file, and the third one, I guess, is when I'm not sure you count this as a different version. Is when you did the build first. So I don't know whether that's the same.
Well, the third one was actually just manually setting up an EC2 instance. Right?
Okay.
And connecting into it and cloning the repo and then running the server. Remember I said using the Beanstalk saves you from having to do all of that, right? Because with that one, we had to actually create the EC2 instance and install all the software it needs, the servers and everything, and then run the application on it. And I'm wondering what's going on with this, why it's taking so long. Uploading. Okay. All right, so it's finally, and that's one of the issues with the node modules and stuff, because it probably just took a lot of time to unzip, right, that package because of the number of files. So now it is starting the environment update. Oh. Here we know that this one is a bad file, right? We know this file is bad. So what we want to see is exactly how bad. Oh, yes, hold on. Let me go ask them to. Okay, restore some sanity there. All right. So here now, we have a very, very glorious ending to this. Our beautiful red error. And it says environment health has degraded from info, or has transitioned from info to degraded, right? Command failed on all instances. So pretty much it failed to deploy the application. We come here and we refresh this, right? Yeah, it completely failed to deploy the application and it did not roll back. So I guess that's clear. What we need to do here is come and deploy the previous good version.
Can I ask why it did not roll back?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand because
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna have to check on that. I'm gonna have to check on that. It seems like things have changed quite a bit in here since I've been actively here. So I don't actively work in AWS, but most of my work is in AWS. But typically, once you set up the environments and stuff, then it just keeps running on autopilot and you get the bills. So they have done some updates to the interface. So I'm gonna have to update my AWS knowledge. All right. So I've deployed it. I've deployed the previous version and we're good. But what I want to see, now that we've deployed a bad version, let's see if CloudWatch has more information for us. So if we come to log groups, again, here, yeah, I don't see anything new here. And ideally, I would look to see a lot more logs here, especially the different log files. So when we come here, let me tell you what I'm expecting to see. When we come into the Beanstalk and we come to logs, right? And we say request all full logs, right? If you remember, this gives us a zip file, right? With a lot of different log files. So if I open up this zip file here, I'll have a bunch of log files, okay? What I'm used to seeing in CloudWatch, and I now have to check and see why I'm not seeing them, is, you see this is a log group. I expect to see multiple different files and multiple different options here, multiple different log streams. One for Node.js, one for Nginx, one for the Beanstalk, there should be at least about 6 of them. Right now, I'm only seeing the environment health log, which is not what I'm expecting to see. Now, sometimes it takes a few minutes before things show up in CloudWatch, but even at that, this is not what I'm expecting. So I'll look into that, and I should have that resolved before we have an actual CloudWatch session. Today, we're just going to look at some light things in CloudWatch, and we will look at Lambda functions. Actually, we'll just look at Lambda functions. We won't do CloudWatch. Okay, so that I can have all that details before we come to CloudWatch. But before we leave ElasticBeanstalk, any questions? There was one option here that is important in Beanstalk, and it's an important part. Actually, no, we're not leaving Beanstalk yet. I just remembered 2 things that I've completely skipped. One of the things with Beanstalk, and not just Beanstalk, but with application environments in general, is that you have what are called environment variables. I don't know if anyone here has heard the term before. Anyone?
I have.
Okay. So environment variables are configurations that are specific to an application environment. Okay. For those working on like on the backend squad, for example, right? We all have our MySQL databases, right? But the MySQL databases are, each of our databases is different. And we each have a different root user and a different root password, right? But we're working on the same application. So how would you have the application connect to your database, and I pull the same application and it connects to my database without me having your password and your database details? The way to do that is to not hard code usernames and passwords and database addresses and even database names. Use what are called environment variables, because that way those configuration details can vary from environment to environment to environment. They are variable, but they're the same variable, right? The value of the variable is different, but the identifier is the same. So in Node.js, there is a node, I call it module, but a part of the Node.js API called process that has information about the currently running process. So when we do this, when we say node index, right? This is a process that's running. The index module is now running as a node process. In this module can access environment variables that have been predefined. And I'm going to show you an example. If we look here and we look at our port, we're going to use this as a good example of defining environment variable, right? If we look at our port here, our port is hard-coded. What if we wanted to make this dynamic so that if I run it, I can run it on the port I want to run it, while I can run it on a different port? Or if I run it in my dev environment, it can run on one port, staging environment can run on another port, production can run on port 8080, right? Let's say that's how I want to do it. How would I achieve that? If I say, so the first thing is I need to make it listen to on a variable, right? So I'm going to say listen on port. Okay, that's my variable, but then I have to define port. So const port equals process dot m, right? Process.env is where the environment variables are stored. It's a JSON object of environment variables. So I'm accessing a port property, which essentially is my environment variable. So let's see. Starting server on port. I'm changing the syntax here, but I'll explain that in a different class, not today. What I'm doing here, if you want to look it up, if you want to research it, it's called string interpolation. Right? I'm making this, it's going to actually be the value of port. So let's look at this. Let's try to run this, right? Node index. Okay. See this? It says starting server on port undefined. Go to http:/undefined, right? Because I don't have an environment variable. Now, see what happens if I say this. Port. Let's actually use proper syntax. Environment variables are usually uppercase. Okay. Now, if I say port equals 8080 node index, you see what happens? Since starting server on port 8080, go to that. And if I open this, it's running on 8080, right? Let's try a different port. Let's say port equals 4321. See what it says? Starting server on port 4321. Go to localhost 4321. If I click on this, application is now running on 4321. So this makes it easy. This is how you actually set up configuration for your application. Okay, you don't hard code values, especially configuration value, into the code. So that's from a developer perspective. From an
How will you
infrastructure
get Beanstalk to dedicate
do
a
this.
particular port to it?
That is now where that's where we're headed. That's what I'm about to talk about. Okay, so coming to Beanstalk, and you come to the configuration, software, edit. We now come down here, environment properties. Say port.
That's cool.
Okay.
Oh, that's not. You can put stuff like that, username, login, password, stuff like that in here.
Yes. So you can say database, right? Or you can say so DB database, like I did here, right? Classroom, right? You can say DB user, classroom admin, right? DB password, whatever. And it's suggesting it because I've done this before on my computer. That's why it's not like Beanstalk knows and it's suggesting though. It's just my normal browser. Okay.
Your cookies at work.
Yeah. So that's it. And so if I now create these here, if I upload my new zip file without these, the application won't work. Actually, let's do that. Let's zip this up. So let's zip this up. Okay. And let's upload this now. And this should be quick. So we're going to upload this zip file now. And this is with okay. Let me deploy this now. Okay, so this is done. We'll refresh this. Hold on. Oh, strange. All right. Let's do this again. Let's do this again. Because that's not the response I was expecting. This is right now. Select project. All right, let's see. Don't tell me it's still working. It shouldn't. Did I save that? I didn't save the environment variable. Well, let's give it a different port. Oh. Yes. It's working because Beanstalk sets this by default to 8080 for node. So, and we can confirm that. Look at this. Let's come to the logs. Let's fetch the last 100 lines. And let's see. You know, we have this log message that we output here when it's running, right? Starting server on port. So we have that console log there. So let's look at this here. I'll see what it says. See that? 4.3. Okay, this is the old one. Starting server.
Two lines above it. Two lines above.
2 lines above.
Yes, there's an 8080 something there. Is that the one? Server running at
No,
80.
that's old.
No, that's
That's
old.
old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, here's the newest one.
Yep, newest one is 8080.
Yes, that's because Node sets Beanstalk passes that by default if we don't provide a port. But now let's give it a different port. We're going to set our own environment variables now. So, and I just remembered that. All right, so we'll set a different port here, right? I will set it to 8082. Now, when you save, then it restarts. It's going to restart the server. It's going to rerun the environment. So it's only going to take a few seconds. And this is a very, very important, very, very useful feature of ElasticBeanstalk. Being able to set your environment variables like that. Looking for this to start. And this is a full environment restart rather than just a deployment. Okay. This restarted. You can look at our logs. And let's refresh the last 100 lines again. Let's look at that. Open this up. So we're looking at starting server on port right here. See that? It's now starting on port 8082 because that's what we set the environment variable. And if we come here, my guess is, oh, I guess that actually tells Beanstalk what port to find it on, because we can still find it, which is fine. Awesome. But that's it. We use an environment variable. It's now running on this port. And that's how you can set configuration for the application environment and have the application actually pick it up. Okay. Any questions about that?
Yeah. So on my end, that on that logs, I don't see anything. So I was wondering why that might be the case.
On, oh, you mean on your Beanstalk?
Yes, like if I go to environment, basically the logs, even though I've uploaded a couple of zip files, I was thinking I would see some type of log, but I don't see any.
And are your zip files console login? Because that really is what console log means. It's output to the log. So you have to make sure that you have a console log there. If you don't have a console log, what we're seeing in the logs is this line.
Okay. Okay, I can double check.
Yeah. So this line is what we're seeing in the logs. Okay. Right.
No problem.
All right. So here is an example of, bad practice, but this is from a development thing, but I'll work on that with the backend squad. We haven't gotten that far yet. But an application that has, let's say classroom, right? This here is not right. This is bad practice. Any security scan will flag this immediately. Because you should never have authentication details in your code base. Right? You should never have authentication details in your code base. All of these should be environment variables. Okay, so you would then typically have this would then be process that this would be process.m dot db host or something like that, right? Instead of localhost. Okay, so from an infrastructure perspective, this is how you set it for each environment. You define the environment variables. So the dev environment could connect to a completely different database from stage from prod. And this is how you have the flexibility of doing that. The other thing I wanted to very quickly touch on, if we come to the log, come back to configuration. And let's look at, and so here you can see in software, we now have our environment properties being listed here, and there'll be more as we go on. But here, there are two areas that I want us to look at. In terms of instances, so we're going to look at instances and capacity. Instances define what really the details about the instances for your environment, right? The size of, of the hard drives, the root volumes, etc. And here's the CloudWatch monitoring interval. Can be 1 minute or 5 minutes, right? And then the security groups. We won't talk about this yet because we're going to have a session when we actually talk about security groups and access control lists and stuff. But the second part, configuration capacity here, is where things get very interesting, because this is where you can set up auto scaling, okay, for your environment. Can anyone remember what auto scaling is?
When you have to,
When you have what?
okay, I wanted to say when you have to basically have lots of traffic and you have to spin or spawn more capacity, I guess.
Yes. So that is the elastic part of your beanstalk. It's the ability for it to grow and shrink, right, based on demand. So if you only have 500 people hitting and your server can handle 1,000 people, you're good. But if you have 2,000 people coming in and your server can only handle 1,000 people, you're not so good. So you would set up rules, auto scaling rules that say, so when your capacity reaches a certain amount, right, when your usage or demand reaches a certain amount, add new servers. So here, if we look at modified capacity, you have what's called an auto scaling group. The beauty of Beanstalk is that each instance the instances will be identically set up, and the same version of the software will be deployed in all of them. So here right now I have a single instance auto scaling group. If I come here and I come for load balanced, right? Now I have a load balanced auto scaling group. I can now say I want at a minimum 1 instance, 4 instances. I can set my minimum to be different. I can say I want 3 instances at least, and then I want it to scale up to 9 instances, right? Okay. Fleet composition, on-demand instances, or combine purchase options and instances, just go on-demand. And then these are all, now the instance type, I can actually change the type of instances I want. I'll stay with T2 Micro because that's a free, right? The AMI, that is the image. This is Amazon Machine Image. This is the image I'm using because this is the image that my current instance is built from, right? With Node.js and everything. Availability zones, right? I want it to be available in all availability zones, right, for my region. Placement. Now with placement, you can actually put them in a specific availability zone, right? If I want to do that. See that. And then scaling cooldown. This is the time frame between changing scaling, right? This is 5 minutes. That's the difference. Sorry, 6 minutes. That's the difference. 360 seconds. Okay. Now here, what would trigger? The triggers are what makes it scale up or scale down. Okay. And then different types of triggers you can set. You can set CPU utilization, network in, network out. Network out is the traffic going out, is how much traffic is going out. Network in, how much traffic is coming in. And then disk write ups, disk write this read writes, this read ups, and so on. There's so many different options, right, for that you define for scaling. The most common one is network out, how much network traffic is going out. Okay. I could come here and I say, hey, I want to use CPU utilization, right? And then choose how the metric is interpreted. Average, and this will be average over time. What you need, bytes, percentage, period over a 5-minute period, right? So these are all options and things that you would set up. I'm just gonna set this up. I hit this so we see the impact that this has on the beanstalk. And then the time zone for the beanstalks, UTC. The folks in England will be happy about that. So when I apply this, I'm going to show you what changes here. Migrating to a load balanced environment replaces all of your current instances. Yeah, I want to do that. So now it's going to recreate my instances. Remember, let's come back here to EC2. Remember that ElasticBeanstalk actually creates instances in EC2. Do you remember that? If we look at my running instances, you remember this instance is tied to my ElasticBeanstalk, right? Now that I'm now setting up this auto scaling with a minimum of 3. Let's watch and see what happens. Let's see if it helps. You see this here? In instance health, I only have 1, right? And this one is okay. But let's see, when it completes setting up my environment, you're gonna notice that it will spin up, because I said a minimum of 3 instances, it will spin up 3 instances. And I will always have 3 instances at least. While we're waiting for this, any questions, anyone? I want to, as much as possible, make sure that we're all following what's going on.
I had a question on the load balancer. Like, what exactly is it used for, and how do you usually?
Great question. So the load balancer, there's a service in AWS called ELB, or Elastic Load Balancer. Right? The way it works is this. When you have a web application, and most applications work like that, or most large-scale applications work like that. When you have an application, each server, well, the server that's serving that application has a maximum capacity, right?
Okay.
But then if you want to handle more capacity and you add more servers, right? That doesn't help you much if all the traffic is still going to the one server. So what you do is you put a load balancer in front of the servers. Traffic comes and hits the load balancer, and the load balancer is monitoring the 3 servers. It's like, oh, this server is not doing much work.
Okay.
Sends the traffic to that. This server is not doing much work. Sends the traffic to it. So the load balancer balances the load across the servers behind it. That's its job. Yeah. So it's monitoring the servers. It also knows which servers are actually available.
Okay.
Right. So it does a health check periodically on each of the servers. And so if you have 3 servers and this one is hanging or it has crashed or shut down, it won't try to send traffic to it. It knows that it's out of commission. It'll send traffic to just the 2. Right? And once that comes back up, it knows it's not available and it will route traffic to it. So that's it. It's really like a, you know how like when you go into Home Depot, there's a person they ask you what you want and then, or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
pretty
Okay.
much. Yeah. It's different from the router. Different from the router because the router is blind. It doesn't know whether the resource is routing to is available or not. It doesn't care. But load balancer actually monitors the health of each of the and directs traffic accordingly. Right. So our environment is back up. Right. And our environment health has transitioned. Right. We're green here. So ideally, that means that we should be good. Our application is still running. Right. But you know what we now have that's different? Let's see what's going on in health. You see what's different now? We now have 3 instances. Right? Because we set a minimum of 3. If we come to our configuration here, you see what's different in our capacity? Right? Availability zones, any, right? Where is that? There used to be a place where, okay, yeah, so here, minimum 3, maximum 9. And it is based off of CPU utilization. So if we, for example, have a process that's using a lot of CPU, right? It may not be a raw number of people. It might just be that it's very, very heavy load, like maybe a video streaming, right? Or video rendering service. And for some reason, you know, we typically expect maybe 3 people to be rendering at the same time, but something very popular happened and 10 people are trying to render at the same time. The CPU usage is very high. It will spin up more servers and direct traffic to them. So let me show you what happens if I try to reduce this minimum. So you see it's a minimum of 3. If I come here to health and I select this 3rd instance, you see the one ending in 3. I take that instance here, right? And you see up here, there's an instance actions, and I terminate that instance. Yes, terminate that job. Okay. Now, I've triggered terminate on that instance, and if we come here and we refresh this, you see that instance is now shutting down. And what you notice here is that I now have 3 software training environment instances. But the one ending in 3, you can see it's now shutting down because I triggered terminate on it. And you see that spinning. So I did that from Beanstalk, right? But you can see the impact it's having here. So the instance is shutting down now. And that shouldn't take very long. Okay. The shutting down. The status checks. It's now clear for it. And what we're going to see is we're going to see, okay, So you see that? Warning, no data received from 1 out of 3 instances. If we come here to our this now, you see this? We now have a warning state. The load balancer has detected that, hey, I'm supposed to have 3 active instances, but I'm missing 1. Right? Look, the environment health has transitioned from okay to severe. ELB, elastic load balancer. This is the load balancer. Elastic load balancer health is failing or not available for all instances. When you have a state like this, you see now, it's now degraded to, it's moved to degraded, and we come back to health, right? This is degraded because of that instance. It should spin up a new one automatically. Let's see. It really takes a few. Remember, it's average
might
of
have
5.
to
I
wait
have to
5
wait about
minutes.
5 minutes.
6
Yes.
minutes.
Yes, 6 minutes. Right? Now I can reduce that time to make it happen more instantaneously. But that's kind of how it works. This instance is now terminated. It's been killed because someone went to terminate the instance. But this is how the auto scaling works. It's an incredibly valuable feature. Our health is back to green here. Look at it. Added instance to your environment. I mean, you're watching my screen, so you can see that I didn't do that. And if we look, we have the new instance here. You see that? Now I have 4, but this one's terminating. If we come back here to the health, look at that. We now have a new instance. Application deployment completed. Yeah, no, we don't have to wait 5 minutes actually for that. It's for the scaling up or scaling down that we have to wait 5 minutes. But for the minimum, it's immediate.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The reason it took some time was because it had to deploy the application. And you can see that application deployment completed 57 seconds ago. So the one that I terminated is up of my list here. And my environment is good. Now, where this is also important is that you notice what happened is that when I terminated the instance, I could still access my environment. It didn't take my application down because I had 2 other servers to pick up the load. That's one of the benefits of both of cloud computing, but of a load balancer and auto scaling specifically. Okay. Any questions? I mean, does this make sense? I want to make sure that this makes sense to everyone.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is what some sites and applications are missing where they have heavy traffic and they go down. It's because they don't have auto scaling or they don't have enough auto scaling. And that's because of how the application is deployed. If you deploy on physical servers, it's very hard to auto scale. But cloud computing is one of the biggest benefits of going to cloud. It's the ability to do this. And you see how easy it was to set this up. It took us a couple of minutes. Right? And voila. So I can come back and change configuration. The other option that you have too, and that is where rolling updates also come into play, is that when you have multiple servers and you want to change the application version, right? You either want to deploy them all at once, right? Or you want to roll the deployments, in which case it won't take all of them down at the same time. To deploy on one, turn that on, deploy on the next one, turn it on. You get what I mean? A rolling updates. So there are different options for that. But these are all really, really great things to do. And there are different combinations of these. So let me take this back to one, to capacity. And please play with this. Like we were talking earlier, right? Like we were saying earlier, if you don't practice or play with this, it's not going to stick. So I'm going back to one instance. Deploy that. And the other thing too is that all the instances share environment variable. So you configure your environment variable once in the Beanstalk. If you spin up 100 instances, they will all have the same environment variable.
Oh, so we can play with this stuff, but we can't play with the CloudWatch, right?
But you can, I mean you can, but check the pricing.
Okay.
Check the pricing. The pricing is usually in cents. So you can play with it to a decent extent and get a bill of maybe $2 or something, but it's not, you know what I mean?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the pricing in AWS is usually fractions of a cent. So it won't kill you, you know, but just be aware of it. Unless you set up large instances like I have for my RDS, then you get bills that are large. Okay, that's it. I think we're out of time tonight, but I hope this was beneficial. Yes, no.
Yes, it was.
So these,
It was, but
Yes.
this is the one I'm going to have to practice a lot. The whole zipping thing, because I just want to get my head around when I do it npm install, when I don't do it npm install, how to get good practice on my Linux commands, all that, the way you zip. Because I normally go the lazy way and just use your normal folder zip.
yeah. If you're in the Mac, then you can just do the command line as well. I think
Okay.
on Windows too you can. Too, yeah. But yeah, it's a good way of doing. I mean, for me, it's a little faster, which is why I do it. Like I find it faster to do that than clicking around and dragging around. So, okay, thanks everyone, and have a great night. See you next week.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good one.
weekend.
Big loud voice.